to Nicholls State in their win last Saturday. So there's a formula here to win the game. There just is. First of all, you should be able to run the ball. If Nicholls State can run the ball, hopefully you can have some success running the rock. And if you can run the ball, that keeps the LSU offense sitting on the sideline watching you run the ball against their defense. Plus, it sets up some play-action opportunities in the passing game for Lenore Sellers. That really feels like the game plan on offense. Obviously, when you're moving the ball, you need to finish the drives with touchdowns and not field goals or punts. Defensively, LSU doesn't really run it. Emory, their starting running back, is hurt. Their stable of running backs, yeah, I mean, they got some highly recruited guys because LSU's filled with highly recruited dudes. But so far, none of them have popped. The offensive line is a heck of a pass-protecting offensive line, but for some reason, the running game just can't get going. And plus, LSU really doesn't seem like they want to dedicate themselves to the running game. So they're going to throw it. They're going to spin it if the weather is right, and we'll get to that in a minute. So Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart, and also Brian Thomas and Des Yu and Gilbert Edmond, JT Gear, the crew coming off the edge, they have to win. Or they have to win enough because they're not going to win every battle against these two left tackles. They're just not. Campbell and Jones will play in the NFL. Campbell, to me, will be a first-round pick. But you got to win enough. You got to win enough to make LSU have to account for what you're doing off the edge. And if they have to chip a back on an edge pass rusher, keep a tight end in, start doubling, that just opens up things for the TJ Sanders of the world and the Tonka Hemingways and the interior guys. So winning on the edge is going to be pretty important on Saturday. Plus, the more heat you put on Nussmeier, the less time he has to throw, which is good for your secondary and coverage. And look, Nussmeier hasn't been pressured all year, hasn't been sacked yet, has been pressured under 10 times, I think, all season. Maybe 5 times. That offensive line, they're good in pass protection. So if you can win off the edge, first of all, Nussmeier will get heat he hasn't gotten yet this year, or he hasn't got, and that's good. Nussmeier making his first road start. So hopefully the place will be loud, and hopefully South Carolina gets off to a good enough start to keep the place loud. And hopefully that will rattle Garrett Nussmeier. That's the hope. Plus you can put some pressure on him. That's the formula. Run the ball and win with your edge guys enough in the passing game for LSU. Obviously, if your special teams can do a couple things to help you, that would be phenomenal. Whether it's Kai Kroger keeping LSU pinned deep, coverage units doing their job, Alex Herrera making kicks, and who knows, maybe you can actually pop a return or something before it's all said and done. But that's the formula. And it's a doable formula. This isn't like one of those, well, we hope. No, it's a doable formula. You have seen this, the pass rushers. I mean, South Carolina leads the SEC in sacks. They're on pace to pass their number of sacks for the whole season last year before the halfway point of this year. They've got legit dudes rushing the passer, coming off the corners. And when you've got that, you've got an opportunity. Plus, your linebacker room's so much better. You'll watch these linebackers. And all this has helped the secondary. This is doable. It's absolutely doable. You can run the ball against LSU. It's doable. The formula is here, and it's not like it's not like sitting there going, okay, here's how you beat Georgia. You kidnap the entire team. No, it's not that thing. Winning this game is doable. Forget LSU wearing LSU uniforms. And plus, you're getting them in September when they're still trying to figure out their offense without 3 first-round picks, and also trying to get their defense right after being historically god-awful last year. So you're catching them at the right time. Maybe this game in November is a different animal. Brian Kelly's a really good coach. Brian Kelly, even though he's probably on the list of coaches you'd least like to have a beer with, Brian Kelly's a hell of a head coach. He just looks like not a fun dude. So it's good to get LSU in September as well, while they're still trying to figure some things out. But there's a formula to this one. And if you can go 3-0, you have Akron, you should beat Akron. Now you're 4-0, Ole Miss will probably be undefeated, and then you really got something at Williams-Brice when the Rebs come to town. Could be a lot of fun. And even if you lose to LSU on Saturday, if you hang there toe-to-toe with LSU and they find a way to win, to squeak out a W on you, still, you don't like losses, and there are no moral victories, but you do still feel good about your football team, hanging in there with what I feel like by the end of the year will be a good squad coming out of Baton Rouge. That's where you're at with the whole spiel. But there's a believable, real formula here to win this football game. And obviously you want the crowd to be nice and lubricated and loud and crazy. Because you want this to be as uncomfortable for LSU as humanly possible. And getting off to a good start would be a nice idea. Because that way you keep your crowd in the game. And you keep them going crazy. And you keep that noise level. And hopefully that will bug a quarterback in his first road start. So we'll see. But it's one of those games when before you got to the season, you went, it's LSU. They're coming off 2 double-digit win years in a row. Brian Kelly's a really good coach. Probably a loss. Now you're not thinking that way. Now you're thinking, holy bleep, we can win this one. Because if South Carolina defensively brings it against LSU and they can get pass rush against this offensive line, they can get pass rush against any offensive line in the country. That's how good LSU's offensive line is in pass protection. So we'll see. We shall see. We're doing a cool little contest here. And Dave, you're not allowed to get in on it, so don't even try. Game day, obviously, 9 a.m. on Saturday at Gamecock Village. If you show up with a 107.5 The Game poster, 107.5 The Game sign, 107.5 The Game T-shirt on, get a picture of you at game day with anything that says 107.5 The Game on it. Send us that picture. First 5 folks to send us those pictures, we'll get tickets for South Carolina Ole Miss. That easy, that simple. So you can hit us on our Twitter X, our Instagram, wherever you want to go. Pop it up there. First 5 folks to do it, we'll get tickets for South Carolina and Ole Miss. But you got to be on the game day set. You got to be at game day. You can't be at your tailgate. You can't be at your mom's house. You can't be sitting in a car. You can't be over at Bojangles. You got to be at the game day setup. Maybe you can sit on Reese Davis's lap. I don't know. Maybe you're sitting there, hugging Nick Saban. Nick would love that, by the way. Put your arms around Nick and take a picture. Say, Nick, this is like I win tickets to go to the Ole Miss game. Hug me, Nick. However you want to do it. So, again, be on the game day, be at the game day party with ESPN. Get a picture of yourself with 107.5 The Game. Whatever it is, again, sign, poster, T-shirt, whatever. Send it to our social media sites. First 5 folks to do it, we'll get tickets, 2 tickets to go to South Carolina Ole Miss, which could be 2 undefeated teams going at it at Williams-Brice, possibly. Start hearing some sound from the coordinators. We'll pop a little Dow Loggins in the next segment, and we'll focus with Dow talking about further offensive improvement. Got better from week 1, needs to get better from week 2. So we got that coming up. Tyler Head will be back here at some point from West Columbia as well. Now, usually, Dave, he brings us Firehouse subs. Is he going to bring us a frame? Do you need a frame, Dave?
Yeah, actually, I have some more awards I need to frame.
That's true. You got your awards in your office area here. Showing off.
From 25 years ago, but hey.
See, that's how long you have been a high-level broadcaster. You've been winning awards 25 years ago. And, of course, you're showing them off and rubbing them in our faces.
Yeah.
Tyler will be back from Goal Line Framing in West Columbia here in a little bit. Our buddy Captain Dave. punching the buttons and keeping us rolling here. It is the halftime show. Here from Dow Loggins next. Terry Ford hanging out with you till 3 on the game. halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, who will be here soon. David Ayer hanging out with us. In the meantime, steering the ship as we go up until 3 o'clock. So, Dal Loggins talking to the media yesterday, along with Clayton White. We'll get some Clayton White here in a little bit. Dal Loggins discussing, look, the offense got better from week 1 to week 2. Got more efficient. We're going to go over the, I'm big on this success rate for an offense is a little analytic deal. And we're just focusing on success on first down. Old Dominion game, success on first down, which is gaining 5 yards or more on first down. That's looked at as success, gaining at least 5 yards. South Carolina against Old Dominion on first down only gained 5 yards or more 26% of the time. You got to get better. We're going to get into the number week 2 here in a little bit. But anyway, the offense did get better from week 1 to week 2. Lenore Sellers looked better. Obviously, they still have to improve, but it was steps in the right direction. Here's Dal Loggins talking about further offensive improvements.
Consistency, just being more as consistent as possible as a unit, eliminate negative plays, which is sometimes can be a challenge when you're playing a lot of young people like we are. When you look at some of the sacks that happened, it's easy to say offensive line, but they weren't. They were on other positions, and so for us, it's getting these young guys playing up to speed and eliminating negative plays and playing more consistent with our technique and fundamentals.
And that is one of the things, looking back to last week, and we really talk about it a lot, the sacks and the heat and the pressure, the tight ends were having problems in pass protection. And obviously that's got to get better. I mean, Michael Smith, Michael Smith in high school probably wasn't asked to block a lot. Probably look at him like you're a hell of a football player, you're a physical freak. We'll let the other dudes block. You just, go make plays. And, Josh Simon has been struggling in pass protection as well. And that's been an issue. And if you saw the pressure coming off the right side against Lenore Sellers, most of that goes on the tight ends. Not all of it, but most of it does. I mean, Cason Henry struggled at right tackle. Josiah Thompson struggled at left tackle. But the tight ends also had their problems in pass protection. The interior of the offensive line, nice work, especially in pass protection on Saturday. All right, so for the offense, to get better, obviously you need to clean up those things. And Lenore Sellers, much more accurate in week 2 than he was in week 1. Seemed much more composed. The game seems like it slowed down a little bit for him on Saturday. He has to keep going in that direction. He used his legs to, get out of the pocket, and he had his head up to look to make throws downfield and not just take off and run. So all these things were good signs. Our Dow also was discussing LSU and the LSU defense. And, of course, Dal Loggins isn't going to say, well, last year they were crap, and this year they're a little bit better, but, yeah, they're still not great. Of course, Dal Loggins isn't going to say that. But here's what Dal Loggins said about the LSU defense. Cut 5, Dave.
Yeah, their defense coordinator comes over from Missouri, and he's had a lot of success against South Carolina the last 3 or 4 years, and I faced him twice at Arkansas. He does a really good job, creates a culture of playing hard that shows up on tape. As soon as you hit play, you see a team that buys into what he's doing, and on top of it's LSU, and they've got elite recruiting for years, and on top of a head coach that's obviously knows how to win games. So we're fortunate we get to play here at home, and it'll be a lot of our players' second SEC start, so you start adding experience, and hopefully we continue to get better each week. And their style of play on top of their scheme, on top of their talents, what creates issues.
And look, LSU still has athleticism on defense, and they've got guys who will play in the NFL on defense. But they're just defensively as a unit. It's better than last year, but it's still nothing special. We've sat here talking about Harold Perkins, their linebacker, who as a freshman, created tons of havoc as an edge pass rusher. And then LSU decided, he's really good for us in college off the edge, but gosh darn it, he's going to be a linebacker in the NFL. Let's start playing him at linebacker so he can get ready for the NFL. I'll never understand that, but that's what LSU's been doing. This year, Perkins has been playing linebacker, a lot of middle linebacker, and right now he's not affecting games at all. He's got one pressure as a pass rusher, and he's got the third lowest run-stopping grade on the defense. Not really helping out. That's not putting a guy in the most advantageous position to help you win football games. To me, this guy's got to come off the edge in obvious passing situations. If you want to move him around as a chess piece like, Dallas does Micah Parsons in the NFL, okay. But you got to have Perkins come off the edge and go after people. But hopefully this Saturday, LSU keeps playing Perkins the way they have been. Good. Thank you very much. So we'll see. But it's just it's a head scratcher. But LSU defensively, you can get going against them. Stephen F. Austin ran the ball very well last week against LSU. Southern Cal did move the ball against LSU. LSU should have won that game. But that's another thing with LSU. Brian Kelly, remember, he hit the table after the game and saying why, we're on the sidelines celebrating like we've won the game just because we have the lead. I mean, LSU's won double-digit games the last 2 years. So this is a good football program. Played for the SEC title 2 years ago. But what is up with, maybe there's something up with them and maybe mentally not as strong as they should be. I don't know. Hopefully that's a deal too. We'll see. We shall see. All right, last one, Dave. Let's get a little Dow Loggins. One last deal here. Let's get to cut 9. There were 3 Lenore Sellers fumbles in the football game Saturday. I just thank the football gods that the ball bounced to where South Carolina could recover. Kamar Bell's recovery of the Sellers fumble was huge. Because Deion Walker, Kentucky's big, ginormous defensive lineman, looked like he had the recovery, and then Bell came flying in and took it from him. So, good fortune. You recovered all the fumbles, but you did have 3 fumbles. Here's Dow Loggins again, cut 9, Dave, talking about the fumbles in the Kentucky game.
Yeah, well, some of them are blindside shots, and when you see blindside shots in the NFL, the ball comes out. Those last year against these guys, Spencer Rattler, as good as he is, he got hit on a blindside shot, and the ball shoots up and is in the air because they don't see those guys coming. You get hit in the face and on those things. So it's making sure that everyone around him is doing his job. Like, all those fumbles happen on situations that we should be protected and we should be clean, have a clean pocket, and be able to throw the ball down the field. So I'm concerned with the other things on those plays. Obviously, ball security is at a premium, and when you play the style of game that we've been playing the last 2 weeks, like, you need to take care of the football, and you need to play good situational football and complementary football. So turnovers and explosive plays will always be the most important thing in football, and it leads to points, it leads to wins. So for us, it's making sure, diagnosing why it happened, fixing the things, and Lenore's fixing a couple technique and fundamental things to make sure that you keep 2 hands on the ball and do those things. But sometimes when you take shots as a quarterback, you're exposed. That's why the NFL has so many rules on how you can hit a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. And, does Lenore's have to feel that pressure maybe and step up? And hopefully in time, that'll start to happen. Being instinctive, okay, I feel the heat, I'm moving up. Again, he's a guy in his second collegiate start. But so it's all together. First, you got to protect it better. And 2, at some point, you hope Lenore feels that pressure coming off his right side, steps up in the pocket or maneuvers away to his left so he doesn't take that hit. But yeah, I mean, some quarterbacks, you get hit. Whether you're in the pocket, you're scrambling, you're running, it happens. Like Dallas said, in the NFL, quarterbacks get hit blindside. Happens a lot. But some quarterbacks have that instinctive feel of they feel the heat and they slide, or they step up, or they will roll the other way. So, but that is something you can't have 3 fumbles in a football game. So that does have to get cleaned up. All right, halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head's coming back. Our buddy Captain Dave is making sure we don't say anything terrible that gets us fined from the FCC. Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest is back. When the Gamecocks score a touchdown on special teams, someone can win money. Pot's $300 right now. If a special teams touchdown is scored, 7:30 Monday morning on the early game, they will pick a winner. And you got to qualify. Go to 1075thegame.com. You'll see that little flippy thing at the top of the screen. When you see it go on the Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest, click on it, fill out the little form, hit submit. You could be a winner. It's that simple. Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest, back again this year on the game. Clayton White, we'll hear what Clayton had to say about the LSU offense and his own defense. We'll talk about playing the 3-3-5, because we hear about 3-3-5, 4-2-5, all these defensive alignments. Clayton will kind of get into that. We'll hear that next here on the halftime show on the game. What we're talking about, obviously, South Carolina, LSU. We'll start everything up Saturday with our local pregame show, Gamecocks Game Day, here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. Sponsored by Lexington Medical Orthopedics. Again, that'll start at 7 with Tyler and Elijah. Yeah, I'll pop in there a little bit, talking to Ryan Brewer and Preston Thorne, but Elijah and Tyler will be rolling that baby as I am recovering from, well, at 7 a.m., I might still be in Baltimore drinking after Springsteen.
Now, are you going to stock up on like Pedialyte and all those kind of things to help your Saturday morning be not so aggressive?
Nah.
Are you just going to free ball or
just gonna
like
roll.
wing it?
Yeah, I'm going to let it go. You know, back in the day when in my drinking prime, which I'm no longer in, the thing that helped me the next morning, you ready for this?
What's that?
A cola Slurpee from 7-Eleven.
Oh, that sounds good.
And what I would do, I would shotgun it to brain freeze myself.
Well, it wakes you up.
Yeah, woke me up, locked up my brain, brought my body temperature down to like 16 degrees, and it helped me kill that hangover. But that was the I'd crawl to the 7-Eleven, right? And of course, by then the guy John, who was the manager, just like, oh, you need a Slurpee, Tara?
No,
Cola?
they handed it to you as soon as you went in the door.
It was on the counter. Oh, yeah,
I could see you dragging your lifeless body down the sidewalk.
So bad. He used to always laugh. He just look at me and shake his head. Like him and his wife, like were the manager, ran the place, they owned it, and they were just to start laughing. Here I am.
If they cared enough, they might have sought out some help for you, but they didn't care that much.
Why they were making money off of me buying Slurpees? Why the hell they wanted me stop? Come on, were you crazy? They needed that 79 cents. But I haven't had a Slurpee in forever. I used to love me a Slurpee.
There's one on every corner now.
I know. I should go get one. Now that I'm talking about it, I should get a cola Slurpee.
It's funny because I'm from Georgia. We don't have those in Georgia. And first time me and my wife came out here, she was like, oh my God, they have them here. Because she's spent a lot of time in Florida, has family down there. She's like, we have to go. I was like, oh, I mean, it can't be that special, right? I went and I was like, it's pretty good.
Slurpees are the thing, man. And now I haven't had one in a while. They still have the little spoony thing on the end of the straw, so you can eat the bottom of the Slurpee.
Yeah, if you ever now typically it melts by the time you get back to the car, so you're just drinking at that point. But yeah, if you want to mix it up, you can.
It's so good. Yeah, it was my hangover. That was my hangover remedy. Cola Slurpee, 7-Eleven.
Maybe this weekend's the time.
Yeah, I'm so past that. You know, I could sit here. Hey, I'm gonna. You know, I'm so past my drinking prime like that. The last time I'll kind of okay. Here we go. Last time I did that is I knock out my headphones again. I was working in Youngstown, Ohio. Working, ready for this music still.
Okay.
Before I got into talk, and country station, and we got tickets for Garth Brooks. You know, we gave them to listeners. We had some for ourselves. So I go with some people to go see Garth Brooks in Cleveland. And in Cleveland, I don't even know if it's still there. They used to have this cool drinking area downtown called the Flats.
Okay.
Tons of bars and restaurants everywhere. Well, we went to Garth Brooks, by the way, one of the best shows I ever saw in my life. Garth Brooks was phenomenal.
I would imagine so.
It was just crazy. We decide, we get to the first bar in the Flats, and we're like, you know what? Tonight's a good night to play bar golf. Because we had a hotel we were staying in Cleveland. So we bar golfed. I got to the 12th hole.
And you woke up in the bunker.
I woke up in the bunker, and it was not pretty. And that's the last time I had gone sideways. This is a long time ago. And that was so brutal. I woke up like I was like somebody beat me.
Hey, you learned your lesson.
Yeah, there was no the hangover when you're younger. It's just your head spinning, you know, your head hurts or whatever. No, I felt like someone took a bat to me while I was asleep.
Yeah, like you got thrown in a cement mixer.
Yes, it was awful. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I mean, I'm driving back. I'll never forget driving back to Youngstown the next afternoon because we check out the hotel like by 11. I had to go sit somewhere for a couple hours, man. I didn't want to eat breakfast because just the thought of food. So I think I just sat there drinking cola Slurpees. But then we got on the road, and that drive was only an hour. Most miserable hour of my life.
Hopefully you'll be in better shape. You can listen to me and Elijah get you set for a monumental matchup coming up this weekend.
I will be awake at 7. to listen to you two get us ready for South Carolina LSU. All right, Clayton White, talking to the media. So we made so much of the 3-3-5 defensive alignment, the 4-2-5 defensive alignment, the 1-1-9 defensive alignment. I mean, we were just going nuts on defensive alignments in the offseason about South Carolina. And I'll say this. You know the best defensive alignment?
The one that's successful?
Yes. And right now it's the one that, hey, you two edge guys, Kennard, Stewart, go meet at the quarterback and do it angry. That's worked out really well so far. Here's Clayton White, though, talking about the 3-3-5 alignment and what it would mean for edge guys.
It's a good question. I mean, naturally, yes and no at the same time, but you definitely want your best 11 on the field. And our guys understand that, we have a deep defense and we feel like only 11 guys can go. So, I mean, everybody can't play at once, but they understand we're preaching defense as a collective and understand that when each call is about the guy beside you, it's not about an individual, and we're trying to keep preaching that. I think if we just continue preaching that mindset that we're playing defense as a group, as a collective, I think that it'll keep our mindset where it needs to be.
And Clayton always talks about that kind of stuff as a group, as a collective, coverage and pass rush go hand in hand. All these things, Clayton's always preaching the whole idea that it is a collective group.
Right.
And this year, it really is a collective group. I mean, we're obviously talking a ton about Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard coming off the edge, but you've also had some excellent play from the DeAndre Jules. Let's take a DeAndre Jules minute here.
Okay.
One thing about South Carolina's interior defensive lineman, like TJ Sanders can rush the passer like a demon. I don't know if TJ Sanders has that same love of playing the run.
Right.
The same love of occupying blockers, getting the snot knocked out of you by 2 or 3 guys so the linebacker can come in and make a play. DeAndre Jules plays the run. I haven't sat and his run grades have been pretty good through 2 games. And you see him very active versus the run game. So Jules has really gone in there and done the dirty work. He also he is in position to make some plays. But when you kind of look at this as a collective and a whole with Kennard and with Stewart, that can set up a lot of different things. If LSU is going to throw the football as much as we think they're going to throw the football, if the weather is conducive to throwing the football, you're going to need Stewart and Kennard and Gear and Thomas and Desu and Edmond to all win enough on the edge to make LSU have to do some adjusting.
And that's the thing. You don't have to go out there and sack Nussmeier 5 times in this game. It'd be great if you did, and that probably means he had a pretty good day. But just make him uncomfortable, because up to this point in his career, as a starter at least, he hasn't really had that. Like, he's not been under pressure a lot because he's behind a phenomenal offensive line.
What is it? 5 pressures in 2 games total?
Something like that. It's
insane.
Very, very low.
It's insane.
He can sit back there, do a puzzle, make a sandwich, take a nap, and then throw the ball.
Yeah, it's that offensive line and pass protection has been so good. And he gets rid of the ball decently because, again, Lacey's an NFL receiver. Kyron Lacey's an NFL receiver. Now, I remember you guys were talking to one of the LSU guys, and we're going to have an LSU dude on what time today?
1:30.
All right, and what's his name again?
Wilson Alexander from The Advocate.
And you know this guy?
I do. Well, kind of. We were in school together, but we were a year apart, so not buddies, but aware of each other.
Just say you've made him everything he is in media.
Sure, why not?
Okay, let's do that. All right, but I heard you guys yapping with the LSU guys yesterday, and they talked about the lack of stretch the defense guy in this offense at wide receiver. And, Jay also having some LSU folks on as well. So that's the one thing. But don't get me wrong, Lacey's an NFL wide receiver.
Oh, for sure.
Mason Taylor's an NFL tight end.
And look, if there wasn't a Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. last year, Kyron Lacey probably would have been a 1,000-yard guy in this offense with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, so, they have pieces. They have talent, but the goal is to make Nussmeier so uncomfortable and pressure him so much and get him off rhythm so much that he doesn't have the opportunities to hit these guys. That's what you're hoping for. One of the reasons, look, not taking anything away from a Kilgore or an Eamon Worry or a Fortune or Collier or Swain or Smith or any of those guys in the defensive backfield, because we have to give them their due that they are developing as well. But it's easier to cover for 2 seconds than it is to cover for 6.
Right.
So, all right, Firehouse Sub Text the hour, 803-404-6100 is coming up. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head going until 3 on the game. Firehouse sub text of the hour here on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the game. Alrighty, what do we got there at 803-404-6100, pal?
People sharing their hangover cures. Patrick says coconut water.
Never thought of that.
It's got a lot of like potassium and all the like good stuff in there for
Nice.
you. Yeah,
I like coconut.
It has a lot of health benefits.
Patrick,
It does not
you.
taste great. That's the one that like if you just get straight up coconut water compared to like normal purified water, tastes not that great.
Really? Because
Yeah.
I like coconut. I'm kind of surprised that wouldn't taste decent.
And you know what? Maybe you would like it. I'm not a fan of the flavor of coconut water. If it's like because there are certain like drinks that are made with coconut water that they taste fine, but just straight up coconut water, not for me. But does have a lot of benefits.
Well, maybe I need to drink a lot to get a hangover to try coconut water.
Maybe you do. Maybe that's your goal for this weekend.
No, it's not.
Come back on Monday. Hey,
It's
try
so
coconut
not
water.
my goal. You know what? The old days would be like, man, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get my drink on and I'm gonna have a great. Now I'm just gonna go. I'll have a couple. Enjoy Bruce. That's kind of the way it's gonna be.
Well, you're going to remember the concert this time, which is the good part.
Yes, I will. I'm just going to go enjoy the concert. That's what
Exactly.
I'm going to do, Tyler.
You can actually recall it later that week.
Yeah, I can remember what happened. So yeah, the days of oh man, going to a concert. Oh yeah, let's get faced. Oh no, I can fully admit, I'm way past that. I'm way past my prime. I can't hang anymore at all. I was watching Elijah Campbell, like a couple of nights when we were in Dallas SEC Media Days. I'm like, honestly, I was getting a hangover watching him.
Well,
Quite impressive.
when you have a man bun, it comes with a certain level of tolerance.
Is that what it is?
You have to earn it. I don't know if he told you that. You have to earn it.
I didn't know you have to earn the man bun.
You do. They don't just give it to anyone.
Yeah, that's a good thing though.
It is.
Just saying.
You should be proud
See,
of
I
it.
had the ponytail. I never thought of the man bun. I wouldn't do a man bun. I did ponytails.
I mean,
That wasn't a thing in
I was
my
gonna say-
time. A man bun would have got you punched in the face.
I was going to say ponytail, fine, rock and roll, long hair, all that kind of stuff. The man bun is a newer evolution for sure.
It's more of a. It's just different. You got a little bit more sophistication to yourself than just the ponytail,
Sure. Well, I mean,
or you're giving that look of a little bit more sophistication to you than the ponytail.
they called them beatniks back in the day, but they were the original hipsters.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like man bun hipsters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the man bun says something different than just the ponytail.
Sure.
Me, I just went ponytail. But back then, again, there was no man bun going on.
You could have, if you knew about it, you could have.
You know what was something that was going on, too, that I never really dug was the rat tail.
I was going to ask about that. No, not for you.
No,
Did you ever have a mullet?
no, I was never
No.
Joe Dirt.
Okay.
I might have, and I didn't know it. I didn't think about it because maybe it wasn't like a mullet thing
You're
back
just like, I
then.
just have long hair.
Yeah, I had long hair, but I always had it. Well, we won't get in my boring hair, but I didn't have a mullet. But I never thought of a mullet as a mullet until later on. As you get older, you go, God, I hope I didn't have one of those.
Well, when you watch like movies and TV shows from the late 80s, like,
Oh, yeah.
everybody had a mullet.
Oh, I mean, Joe
Okay.
Dirt was making fun of everybody who had a mullet, remember?
What? Uncle Jesse had one on Full House.
I probably did and didn't realize it. How's that sound?
That's fair.
I probably did have a mullet without realizing, oh my God, I
Then
got a
when
mullet.
your kids inevitably dig up the pictures somewhere down the line, like, Dad, you had a mullet?
Dad, that's embarrassing. You had a mullet. Wow, what a dork. That could possibly happen. Oh, man. Anyway, thanks for the coconut water. Keep that in mind. 803-404-6100 Firehouse subtext line. We appreciate you. A little different on the on our little Twitter X poll today. Instead of giving you like multiple choice like we usually roll out, today it's as simple as this. College Game Day has not picked the guest picker yet. They have not selected the guest picker.
Correct.
If it were up to you, who would you choose to be the celebrity guest picker? And we're just saying, give us some names. We got a bunch of them. Got a lot. Spurrier, ball coach Steve Spurrier, Steven Garcia, Don Staley. Trick Williams is getting a lot of love.
So he apparently was pulled from this weekend's house show. Now, again, nothing's been announced, but there's a strong possibility. The only problem is, like, it's going to be done inside the stadium. So
Right.
you're not going to have the crowd
I know.
atmosphere to it, which does take it away a little bit. But certainly fair game.
Yep, George Rogers in here. I love this one. Steven Garcia, I'm sure Nick Saban would approve.
Oh, that'd be a great conversation. Hey, Nick. Long time no see,
How
buddy.
you doing, Nick? Remember me? Asia Wilson's name is in here. Of Cornbread Cowboy getting a little love.
There's a couple people that threw him out there. I think it'd be a fun person to have on game day. I don't know if they'd go guest picker route on him or not.
Yeah, see, Paul Maneri.
Now, see, Maneri wouldn't want to anger the people in LSU by picking against them.
That's true. Steven, also, we have Lamont Paris, Jadeveon Clowney. No, we got a bunch in here, so we just keep them coming.
I'd go with Paris for the hilarity of him being out there in a, quarter zip when it's 85 degrees on Saturday.
It would be good, wouldn't it?
Just pouring sweat.
Washing his car. We brought macaroni and cheese to the set. All right, so keep it coming on our Twitter X at 1075 The Game. Football in the 1 o'clock hour. Expansion in college football. It never ends. We've got more of it. We'll talk about it next here on The Game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. 1 o'clock hour means football on the halftime show. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Okay. We got expansion.
Again, you thought it was over?
It's never over, Tyler. It's never over. This one's a little weird. You get it in theory, but what does it really mean? Probably not a lot. All right, so the Pac-2, Pac-12.
Two-pack.
The two-pack. Oregon State and Washington State. I'm sorry, the Pac-12, which I just find funny.
The artist formerly known as
Yes.
the Pac-12.
The Pac-2 or the two-pack is adding, now there'll be a six-pack.
That's what I've been saying all morning. It makes perfect sense.
It's a six-pack. That's a great league, the six-pack. I have a hard time even talking about this with a straight face. Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and Fresno State will join the two-pack to become a six-pack.
That's correct.
And I get what the two-pack is trying to do. They're trying to rebuild their conference. I understand.
They're trying to just have a conference.
Right. They're trying to just be able to not go away.
Yep.
I understand. I do understand it. I'd be doing the same thing, by the way. I would be doing the same thing. How can we save ourselves, right? But it depends on what is your dictionary definition of saving yourself. If you're trying to still stay as a power league, this does nothing for you. It just does nothing for you. That's number one, right?
Yes.
If you're just trying to stay a league, this does help you. But if you're trying to keep yourself in the power conversation, it really doesn't do much.
Well, I think any semblance of being a power league, that ship has sailed. That ship sailed when all the other teams left. And look, I feel bad for Oregon State and Washington State. They did nothing wrong here. They just had the two least desirable media markets that was left in the Pac-12. And then everybody else got snatched up by the Big Ten, the Big 12, and they were left on their own. And, they had this scheduling agreement with the Mountain West just to be able to fill out their schedules, but that was a short-term fix. This is purely just giving them numbers to be able to say, all right, and it's going to be 6 in 2026, but they do eventually have to get to at least 8, which is the NCAA's minimum for what a conference should be a couple years after that, I believe 2028, to continue as Pac-12. Now, there's a grace period that they were given because, again, all this stuff just fell apart, right before the season started last year, so didn't have a lot of time for contingency plans. So they have a grace period of a couple years to put this thing back together to get to at least 8 to be recognized as a legitimate conference. But again, they're never going to be looked at as a power conference. I get Boise State, one of the better group of 5 teams on a routine basis. San Diego State's had some good years, all that kind of stuff. That's fine. But it's a group of 6 now, I guess we call it.
I like six-pack.
But again.
Oh, you mean group of 6, so
right,
a group of 5.
This
Sorry.
conference is never going to, and I know we have to restructure the playoff, and that's going to change and all that kind of stuff. They're never getting an AQ into the 12-team playoff if that still continues to exist in a couple of years. Their best hope is that you have a team that's good enough to be 12-0, 11-1, and you get invited to the dance that way.
Yeah, and that's where you're at. And you're right, it would be a group of 6 now with the mid-major schools. Look, Boise State, timing's everything as well. If this was 2010 and you got Chris Pearson as a head coach and Kellen Moore's the quarterback and Boise State's knocking on the door, maybe playing for a national championship, and they're going to Atlanta and beating Georgia and they're beating Virginia Tech and D.C. and they're doing all these things, this is a different conversation. And you're like, ooh.
Of course.
That's that team that plays on the blue and blah, blah, blah. Now they're just a good mid-major. That's what they are now. San Diego State gives you the city of San Diego, which is a top 30 TV market.
Which, let's remember back a year ago, before the Pac-12 fell apart, San Diego State was trying to join the Pac-12.
Yes.
They even left the Mountain West, realized, oh, crap, this conference doesn't exist anymore, and tried to get back in. They had to wait for the commissioner to unlock the door and let them back in, which they did gracefully.
And you know what they did? They just crawled out the window again.
They did, pretty much.
So you get San Diego. Fresno State is a top 60 TV market. Fresno's a top 60 TV market. Colorado State, Fort Collins is not that big of a market at all. Boise, Idaho, I worked there. It's not a top 100 TV market. It's barely a top 100 radio market. It's not a gigantic. It's one of the most desirable cities to live in America right now.
It's a state
but
capital. That's
it's
about all
not
it
a
has going for
gigantic.
it.
It's not a gigantic market, and the state. It's not like a recruiting hotbed, and so yes, Boise State has name recognition, especially what they used to be 10 years ago, 15 years ago. San Diego State gives you the biggest market of the crew. Fresno State, and then again, if you're trying to build a conference, fine. This is what you're doing. What are the other two? Who's coming next?
Yeah, and that is something interesting here because Pete Nakos of On3 tweeted this out just a couple minutes ago, but he said schools to watch for expansion of the Pac-12 down the line because, again, they do eventually have to get to 8 to remain a conference. Teams that he has listed, Memphis, Tulane, UTSA, Cal and Stanford, no too late to go home again, UNLV, Air Force, Wyoming, New Mexico.
Okay, ready? Cal and Stanford won't do that because they're in the ACC.
They're making a significant amount of money in the ACC that the Pac-12 will not be able to pay them.
Yeah, that won't happen. Memphis, okay, and I've got to dig a little harder because I haven't had a chance to today because I had this other job I had to do. How much is Memphis getting and Tulane getting right now in the AAC?
That is a good question. I'll have that answered in 1 second.
Now, the Pac-12, remember something, the six-pack, which this will be right now the two-pack, they've still got Pac-12 money. Remember, they got money from the media rights stuff that blew up, so they've got some dough, right? So they're not like sitting there with nothing. As a matter of fact, they're going to help pay. There's this thing called a poaching fee.
Yes.
That you have to pay. The Pac-12 have to pay a poaching fee to the Mountain West.
By the way, according to the New York Times, or the Athletic, excuse me, it looks like with the latest TV deal, AAC schools get $7 million a year per their TV deal.
So again, that for a group of five, that's life in the group of five. Now, can you put something together? Whatever let's say it's going to be the Pac-12 again, even though there'll be 8 teams. Can you put together a media package that can get those schools more than $7 million? Remember this too. I know nobody cares about this anymore. You have to actually travel,
right?
And you have to spend money and you're going to have all your teams in the conference. So if you're Memphis and Tulane, you'll be running around in the Mountain Time Zone in Boise. Look, I have been up near Pullman, Washington. That is truly in the middle of nowhere. So you got to get up in Washington State. You're going to have to also go to Corvallis, Oregon, Fresno, California, San Diego. So travel is a thing for a school like a Memphis or a Tulane.
And here's my thing. Is there going to be a company, ESPN, Fox, CBS, that's going to be willing to shell out significant enough dough for whatever this conference is going to be?
Okay.
Because they got thrown a bone with the Mountain West's TV deal for the time being.
And the Mountain West, I mean, they're not paying a ton either to these teams. Here's my thought. If you are selling, this is just again off the top of my head. If you're selling, we give you football content late night in a late night window that you're missing because you don't have Pac-12 After Dark anymore. If you're selling that on Saturday night, that's really what you're selling.
Pretty much.
And maybe games during the week because you'll be like the MAC. You'll take any day, right?
Right, yeah. And nobody's making appointment television out of your 3:30 game.
No, so you've got to think outside the box of that selling point to make one of these big boy networks go, we'll cut you a check.
And you know what? That's actually a good idea. We look at what like the MAC and the Sun Belt have done where they've kind of capitalized on midweek games. Mm-hmm. So, and
yep.
I guess, I mean, MAC does Tuesday MAC, and they have Wednesday games, but if you can put together what you deem marquee games in your conference on a Wednesday night when there's nothing else on, that might be your thing.
It might be. You find the windows during the week that are available where you can maximize. You pitch that to the networks, and you pitch, look, we're giving you the late night window on Saturday because, again, are those numbers like, the big game numbers? No, but people watched Pac-12 After Dark.
That was great.
College football freaks like us watch that. So if you can give that window to a network and build something during the week, you might be able to make a few bucks.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about Pac-12 After Dark, everybody has great memories of it because it was something different. Mm-hmm. The Pac-12 better than any other conference, at least in recent years, held true to being a regional type of thing, where you knew when you watch Pac-12 football, you were going to need a certain type of football, high-scoring offense, not a whole lot of defense, wacky things are going to happen. I don't know if you get the same thing with whatever this conference is going to be. Sure, it's teams out on the West Coast, but again, these are essentially group of 5 teams joining a quasi-power conference. I don't know if you're getting the same quality of football out of these guys that you would have gotten when you watched Washington State and Arizona play at 11 o'clock on a Saturday.
Well, I mean, let's face it. You look at the 4 schools. Now look at the schools that left. I mean, there are programs that were better than these 4 who took off. So, yeah, to your point, probably not. But if you can get some high-scoring stuff, some fun football, yeah, they're not to the level of what you had. But if you can get some stuff that's compelling enough to keep the TV on, because, I mean, let's face it, some of those action games are painful.
Oh, that's bad. Sometimes
it's painful. You get a big snowstorm, it's 6-3. I mean, some of that stuff can be bad, but you're right. You're not going to get the quality you had. You're just not. I mean, remember Washington played for the national championship last year. Southern Cal, if nothing else, can score points under Lincoln Riley. Oregon, really good football program. Nobody in the six-pack is anything to what Oregon is, even though Boise State almost beat Oregon on Saturday. So, yeah, it's not going to be that kind of product. And now you're waiting till, 26, 27 anyway, because the Mountain West, their exit fees, if you go after 1 year, it's $36 million. Remember, San Diego State was like, 2 years is $18 million. So if you leave in 2 years, you still have an $18 million check to write to the Mountain West. Now, obviously, you'll negotiate it and all that, blah, blah, blah. But you do have to pay some money. Now, the Pac-12, I can't say, but I said that out loud. Washington State and Oregon State and whatever that conference is going to help pay these exit fees. But there's a poaching fee. I got to see what the poaching fee is. $43 million is what the two-pack could be on the hook for in poaching fees, because that's part of the agreement between the Mountain West and the Pac-2 when they decide to play. So it's not a guaranteed poaching fee, but there is a possible poaching fee involved here as well. And the interesting part of this, too, now this might be a bigger picture thing. The Mountain West, when the Pac-12 went all over themselves, and there was 2 left, the commissioner of the Mountain West was very open, saying, we got no problem merging this thing. Well, I think it was Cal and Stanford were still there.
Yes.
We got no problem merging this thing. I think and maybe the Pac-12 tried this conversation with the Mountain West and they couldn't get this thing together. But, again, this is just another idea for you. Do you go hug the Mountain West and say, you know what? Why don't we just get this thing together? It might be the Pac-12, not the Mountain West, but we'll all get together and make this thing happen.
Might be the Mountain Pack.
How about the Pac Mountain?
That'd be the Pac West.
Pac Mountain,
I don't
Pac
know.
West.
Pac West actually doesn't sound bad.
12 mountains. I don't know. But they're trying, and I would try too.
Yeah,
you've got to try.
Because, again, if you don't do anything, the NCAA is eventually going to, I don't know what the proper term it is, deconference you, where you're just going to be, I guess, independent at that point. You really don't want that, because then you have no help.
No, a deconference sounds bad.
NBC isn't going to throw you $60 million a year like they're throwing Notre Dame.
No, and you're trying to survive. You're trying to save yourself. I do not blame them at all. But that's what's going on there. We'll continue on with football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Our buddy Bill Gunner will be in Blythewood today at Hardee's from 3 to 6. Go into Hardee's, any participating Hardee's, and whatever your bill is, round up to the nearest dollar. That roundup will go to the Harvest Hope Food Bank for students, so we can feed the kids' lunches in the Midlands. So Bill will be there in Blythewood, 3 to 6 at the Hardee's. Say hey to Bill. He'll be yipping with Jay and Elijah on the postgame show as well, as we're trying to help out and, again, feed the kids in the Midlands for lunch. Halftime show, more football, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the game coming up. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the Game with Terry Ford and Tyler Head halftime show. All right, Matthew Brune from LSU's On 3 site hopped on with Tyler and Wes and Chris yesterday, talking about a variety of stuff. And we're going to try to get as many as we can here because I think they're all interesting regarding this game coming up on Saturday. First of all, we'll start with Matthew Brune discussing the belief in first-year starting quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. Cut 26, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the outside, from a national perspective, I think he was underrated going into the year. I think a lot of people, some people had him outside the top half of the conference in terms of quarterback play, and I tried to continue to, say that he was going to be a good player and say that he has all the arm talent. And you mentioned that Georgia game where he was awesome. You mentioned he had the Wisconsin game last year in the bowl game where he was awesome. He's come in for Jaden Daniels the last 2 years and just been nothing but really good. So I had no reason to believe he was going to fall off, and the arm talent is obvious for anybody who's watched him. So I think he's exceeded expectations on the outside. But in terms of what LSU thought they had, in terms of what people who follow LSU thought they had, I think there's been no surprise. He's extremely accurate. He just has to continue to do what he's doing, and I think he has a good enough receiver room and a good offensive line that'll help him, stay comfortable.
I mean, so far, 2 300-yard passing games in his 2 starts this year. When he has played in the past, he's played well. He's going to have weapons to throw to. He's got an offensive line who's phenomenal in pass protection. So he's set up to succeed, Tyler, in a lot of ways.
He is, and there's been a lot of continuity. Of course, he's been on this roster for a couple of years, going back to when Jaden Daniels first came in back in 2022. And I referenced in asking my question to him, my first time I noticed him was in the SEC championship game 2 years ago when I think Daniels got hurt, maybe third quarter or something like that. And Georgia had the game well in hand, but Nussmeier went out there against the eventual national champion defense and moved the ball up and down the field really well. And I was like, man, okay, this guy has something here. And I think that instilled a lot of confidence in the people there at LSU for, when he eventually took over. Now, Matt Denbrock did leave to go be the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame, who'd been the offensive coordinator the past couple of years. But Joe Sloan, who was his quarterback coach, is now calling plays there. So there's a lot of continuity within that building of things kind of staying the same. And again, you have a guy that's been in that system for a couple of years and is coming out of the gate as a starter, very successful.
He's completing 75% of his throws. 8 touchdowns, only 1 pick. And if you break down the numbers a little bit and look at it like depth, I mean, I always look at the medium category, 10 to 19 yards. To me, that's the money spot in a passing game. If you can be efficient and successful in that area, it shows me a lot about your passing offense. Right now, Nussmeier, 13 of 18. He's completing over 70% of his balls in the intermediate area of the passing game.
And they have the ability with Kyron Lacy, who is a deep threat, to stretch the ball down the field as well. And he's completing about 33% of his throws that are 20 yards or more down the field.
33.3, Tyler.
33.3.
You're off. What's up with you, dude?
Exactly 1/3 of his throws that far down the field. Now, again, that's not what they're doing constantly, but they can hit you over the top of the big play like that, and he can make those passes, certainly. But again, going back to what we said a little bit earlier, he hasn't been pressured a lot. He's got a good offensive line in front of him that has not put him under a lot of duress in his time as a starter or in the times that he came in and, mop-up duty in years past.
He has been pressured this year on 15% of his throws. 12 total pressures. We said 5 or 6. It's been officially Pro Football Focus has 12 total pressures on 77 dropbacks this year. A pressure rate of 15%. He has not been sacked. If my memory serves me, he has not been sacked at all.
Now
he's only been hit a handful of times.
Yeah, he's in the clean jersey club usually at the end of the game. Now in his career, on his times he has been pressured, he's only completing 45% of his passes. So if you can get to him and affect him, you are going to bring that completion percentage down quite a bit.
Clean pocket, 78% of his throws he completes when not blitzed, 75% almost. And when blitzed, he's been blitzed 29 dropbacks out of 77. So he's been blitzed almost 40% of the time. And right now, he's completing about 75% of those throws. But yeah, he has not been pressured that much at all. So the blitzes aren't getting home. And if your blitzes aren't getting home, what are you now exposing? The back end of your defense.
Yes.
So we'll see where it goes. South Carolina has blitzed very little this year, which, by the way, you don't need to.
Hey, if you're getting home with 3 or 4,
You don't need
do
to.
it. And now we did see a little bit of that with Vakari Swain last week coming on that corner blitz. I wonder, now again, you had a running quarterback in Brock Vandegrift who can use his feet. That's not really Nussmeier's game. I wonder how much of a part of the game plan that'll be this weekend as well.
We'll see. If you want to, with Clayton, it's like really, you don't need to overthink this. You're getting heat with 4. You don't need to blitz a ton, but when you do, you saw Vakari Swain come off that corner and do damage. And maybe you can mix those in occasionally, but right now you got 4 guys getting to the quarterback. You can drop 7. Those guys are causing so much havoc, quarterbacks won't have a ton of time to throw.
Now, if they're just bullying you off the line of scrimmage on Saturday, you might have to make some adjustments as the game goes along, and then you might have to think about bringing blitzes from some different areas, maybe incorporating more of that 3-3-5 and getting your linebackers involved. But yeah, if you can continue to be successful with rushing 4 and having Stewart and Kennard come off the edge the way they have, keep rolling with it.
So they're getting the ball, and Nussmeier's getting the ball off in 2.44 seconds. So he's getting rid of it. Because he's not getting rushed. This isn't from pressure. They're just they get rid of the ball pretty fast.
Finding wide open guys and getting it to them.
They're not messing around. This is not it feels like more of a passing game where, all right, drop back, let her rip. And like you said, guys are open. It's easier to let her rip when guys are open. So that's kind of the breakdown there of Nussmeier. All right, we're going to get back. Matthew Brune, more.
We'll be talking to our
Oh, gosh, it is time. We got another insider.
Right.
Then we'll get back to Matthew Brune. Who's our guy again?
Wilson Alexander from The Advocate in Baton Rouge.
Wilson Alexander from The Advocate in Baton Rouge is coming up next. We'll talk some LSU football with Wilson. That's next on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. What we're talking about, obviously, is South Carolina LSU. Saturday, we get rolling 7 a.m. Gamecocks game day. Tailgate sponsored by Lexington Medical Orthopedics. Game day will be in town at 9 a.m. Kickoffs at noon. Time to look at the LSU side of this baby. Wilson Alexander from The Advocate. Wilson, thanks for hopping on, man. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Hope y'all having a good day.
Oh, so far it's been crap, but thanks for asking. No, I'm just playing. Wilson, when we're talking about this football game on this side, we look at keys of this game is, can the South Carolina edge rushers at least win enough against these LSU soon-to-be NFL offensive tackles? On the flip side, can South Carolina run the ball, keep the LSU offense off the field, and then produce touchdowns and kind of play a little keep away? On the side of LSU, what are they looking at if they want to punch a W in Columbia on Saturday?
A lot of the same sort of things, and just from their own, sort of perspective, which is, can they neutralize what South Carolina's been able to do up front, especially off the edge, being able to create sacks and tackles for loss so much this season. LSU still, even though the offensive line hasn't really gotten going in the run game, still clearly a strength in the passing game. They haven't given up a sack yet this season. Garrett Nussmeier really hasn't been pressured much, and they're really good in their pass pro. And so that feels like an area where there may be, strength on strength here, but maybe LSU, is kind of going to find out, are they still able to take kind of an advantage there? And then on the defensive side, LSU lost Jacoby and Guillory, one of their defensive tackles this week. They might be doing some different things with their linebacker personnel. And so it really comes down to, are they able to kind of stop the run? South Carolina, as all everybody over there knows, at least from what we've been able to tell, hasn't been able to really establish like a electric running game, but they're running the football a ton. And so LSU, it seems like that's going to be the key there, is just being able to stop the run in order to get off the field, maybe set up some long third downs where their edge rushers can try to create some havoc. Guys like Savion Jones and Braden Swinson and Harold Perkins maybe able to get after the passer a little bit like they did at times against USC in week 1.
Wilson, I was speaking to somebody else earlier on in the week that covers the LSU program, and I asked him what defensive line gave this offensive unit the most trouble in the past year or so, because again, 4 of their starters returning from the offensive line last year, and he made reference to Florida State last year in the season opener, and of course that was the Florida State team that had Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and Patrick Payton still on the team over there. Do you remember anything specific about that game and what that defensive front was able to do that gave LSU issues in that game?
It was able to clog rush lanes and really be able to bow up in short, fourth down, short third down situations. LSU's offense evolved a ton from that game throughout the rest of the season. Became much more about Jaden Daniels and what he was going to be able to do as a dual threat quarterback. And in that game, though, they really weren't able to run the football with any sort of effectiveness. And Jaden didn't make some great decisions in terms of whether or not he should keep it in some of the, because they went for it on fourth down a couple of times in that game and weren't able to get it. And so that was what Florida State was able to do was win in those situations. And that's sort of what caused LSU problems again against USC in week 1 was sort of, there was a 3rd and 1 in particular in the second half where LSU just rushed up to the line of scrimmage after a completion on second down, tried to hand the ball off, and USC bowed up and made a stop, forced LSU to punt, and then 3 plays later took the lead again. And LSU, that was when they were up 17-13, and they never were able to come back and retake the lead in that game. And so that's kind of what we've seen at times when LSU's offense has struggled over the past year, is really when they haven't been able to create a push up front and move a defense off the ball in those key critical moments. And that's what South Carolina would have to be able to do as well. This LSU offense is much different than it was under Jaden Daniels. It's still kind of that same commonality.
Wilson Alexander hanging out with us from The Advocate, talking LSU football here on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Tyler Harold on the game. All right, Wilson, the offensive line, obviously much is made of Campbell and Jones, the 2 tackles, and the fact that Garrett Nussmeier has not been sacked this year and has been hit maybe twice, and that was by cheerleaders pregame. He stays clean, and there's been no heat put on Nussmeier. But the flip side is the run game. Again, Pro Football Focus isn't the end-all, be-all, but Will Campbell and Emory Jones, their run blocking grades are below average. And the line as a whole is nowhere near as good in the run game blocking as they are as fantastic in pass protection. What's going on with that? Have you get any investigative reporting on this whole thing? Help us, please.
Well, yeah, we've been trying to sort through it and figure it out this week. Brian Kelly was asked about a lot this week, and here's the perspective from him anyway. Take it for what it's worth. Is that LSU, he says, has been getting a lot of loaded boxes where teams think they're going to try to run the football. They've been in a lot of 7- and 8-man fronts, extra, and so against Nichols this past weekend, when they only rushed 21 times for 64 yards against an FCS team. He said that they had 35 or 36 run plays called, and they only ended up running the ball 21 times because they would check out of things at the line of scrimmage into more favorable looks. Now, maybe that's a head coach trying to kind of spin things because LSU has just not been able to be effective running football whatsoever. Other than a little bit of a stretch in the third quarter against USC, this is an offensive line that surprisingly has not been able to generate a push up front, and the running backs haven't been great either outside of John Emery, who's now out for the season. And, so it's really surprising because that was expected to be the strength of this team was the offensive line. All offseason, Kelly talked about them having a retooled run game really built around this offensive line. It's an experienced group. Will Campbell and Emery Jones are guys who might be going in the first round of the draft. Garrett Dellinger and Miles Frazier have been 3-year starters as well. This is 4 of offensive linemen who have played together for 3 years now. And now they did a lot of different things in the run game the last 2 years when you have Jaden Daniels, there's a lot more inside zone read, and they're trying to do different stuff now with like counters and pulling linemen and stuff like that. And maybe that those different schemes just haven't taken yet because, they have not been able – they haven't gotten knocked off the football, but they also haven't been able to push anyone off the line of scrimmage.
Looking at things defensively, a lot was made this offseason of Blake Baker coming in to fix this defense that was such a big problem a season ago. Of course, the past 2 years he had been at Missouri and held South Carolina under 15 points in both the games when he was defensive coordinator out there in Como. Of course, the personnel is different, but how similar is the defense he's running at LSU to what he had at Missouri the past couple of years?
Philosophically, it's the same. This is all about havoc and creating disruption. His goal is to have a 25% havoc rate when you look at, throughout the course of a game. So tackles for loss, sacks, interceptions, pass breakups, and forced fumbles. And they did a really good job of that against USC. Their havoc rate was like 27%. Xavier Jones, a senior defensive end, had 2 sacks. They had 5 tackles for loss. They created some forced fumbles, even though they didn't actually end up having the opportunity. And so that wasn't the case this past week against Nichols. Maybe I think, though, that had a lot to do with Nichols' offensive strategy. It was a lot of running the football, getting the ball out quick, sort of neutralize some of that. But that's still, what they want to do defensively is they want to be able to play a lot of man coverage in the back end, and they want to be able to create disruption up front and really get their linebackers coming downhill. Guys to look out for in that regard are certainly Whit Weeks is a linebacker, a sophomore, who's having a great start to his season. Harold Perkins, who a lot of people know that name, is super athletic but hasn't really quite gotten going yet. And so that's kind of what they want to try to be able to do on the defensive side. And it is certainly the same, as what they did at Missouri. Now, LSU might not have some of the same parts and personnel that Missouri had last season in particular, but philosophically, it's the same kind of approach.
Halftime show, Terry Ford Tyler Head hanging out with Wilson Alexander from The Advocate, talking some LSU football. I know no one ever brings up Harold Perkins to you. I know this will be the first time anyone's ever asked you anything about Harold Perkins.
Sorry?
Look, it's very well known what Perkins did his freshman year coming off the edge, what he hasn't been doing since being moved to linebacker. This year, again, 15th on the team in run grade, 17th in pass rush. He's only got 1 pressure all year long. I mean, is this going to continue down this road? Are they going to start putting him back in some packages where he can rush off the edge more and really create some quote-unquote havoc plays? Or is this experiment of keeping him a linebacker because that's where he's going to play in the NFL? Do you feel this is going to continue all year, or will there be tweaks and adjustments?
That first tweak and adjustment might be coming as soon as this weekend. That's going to be one of the big things to watch is what does LSU do with Harold Perkins and with Whit Weeks. They both play weak side linebacker in LSU's base defense, and so they can't be on the field necessarily at the same time on the base look. That might change, though, this weekend. LSU, I think that there's a chance Harold Perkins ends up moving over to the star position, which is what Major Burns, safety, has been playing, and is somewhere more outside, kind of playing in space and then coming off the edge on some different blitz packages. LSU, I think, then that gives them a chance to kind of have both their most athletic linebackers on the field at the same time, because Whitweek has been so good. Like Brian Kelly said this week, he can't be in a platoon situation. He needs to be on the field more, which people in Baton Rouge have been clamoring for like a year. And so that might be the way to do that might be to move Harold Perkins over, maybe take Major Burns off the field at that star spot, and then, do some different things with Harold Perkins. And what exactly those things end up being is kind of what we'll all have to see. But I do think that there's maybe a change coming in his usage. He's not just going to be a straight edge rusher. He's 220 pounds. He does it's not the size for LSU's, at least as of now, not going to put him right back at that spot. But putting him in the star might get him a little bit closer to doing some of that, playing a little bit of coverage, which he was really good in last year at times. And so that might be what we start to see this weekend.
Last one for you here. Got right about a minute. We've talked plenty this week on our airwaves about significance of this game for South Carolina. Game day's here. A lot of eyes on the country, from the country on what Carolina's doing, especially after last week's win against, Kentucky. For LSU, they're coming in here trying to avoid going 1-2. What's the pressure and significance of this game from their perspective?
It's a game that if LSU wins, it's not going to change people's opinion of LSU, I don't think, especially around here. But if they lose, then it's going to ruin them, basically, because LSU dropping to 1-2 with really what should be its toughest games on the schedule still ahead, then you start talking about, instead of a team that might be able to go 9-3 this season, a team that suddenly you're worrying about 7-5. And that would be a huge drop off from where they've been the last 2 years. Then some really tough questions about the direction of the program under Brian Kelly start to come up. They've already been bubbling a little bit after the loss to Southern Cal in week 1. That would intensify a lot if they were to lose this game and get off to a 1-2 start to the season.
Wilson Alexander from The Advocate, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for jumping in. I know there's nothing else going on this week. You're just sitting around binging Netflix. So thanks, man.
Thanks for having me. Y'all have a good one.
You too. That's Wilson Alexander from The Advocate. Sips and Sounds. Our buds at B106 are having a big party. Sampling of over 40 brands of local and national craft beers, wines, seltzers, and spirits. Live performances from Ken and Drew of Sister Hazel, Dazer, Donovan Twins. It's all Saturday, September 28th. There's no Gamecock football. It's an off day. Plenty of time to go do a little Sips and Sounds. Get your unlimited tasting wristbands now at sipsandsoundscola.com and get more info on Sips and Sounds. Again, sipsandsoundscola.com. Firehouse sub text the hour at 803-404-6100. And how did South Carolina do on first down in week 2? Success rate. All that's coming up next. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. Time to check the Firehouse subtext the hour at 803-404-6100. And also we'll take another look at the Twitter X poll for the day. What do you got there on the text line?
Joe says that LSU quarterback is about to see a defensive unit that'll give him nightmares. We're the best defense he'll have seen in his only 2 career starts. That's probably true.
I think so.
I mean, say they're probably better than Wisconsin's defense was in that bowl game last year.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many starters Wisconsin was down at that point in time anyway, because bowl games are, bowl games at this point.
And Wisconsin wasn't bringing a lot of pressure off the edge.
No, they weren't. So, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt for what we think we know about this defense so far this season, it's definitely the best they've faced. Does that mean they're going to go out there and be successful? We're going to have to wait and see.
We'll find out. But you feel good as a Gamecock fan seeing what the South Carolina D has done so far. But again, to be fair, LSU's skill positions and this offensive line, when it comes to pass protection, is much better than Kentucky or Old Dominion.
You go into this game feeling like you have a good chance. And that is the best feeling you can have going up against a higher quality opponent, because there's been plenty of years in the past where you've gone up against the Georgias, the Alabamas, whoever it may be, and you're like, yeah, outside of them just throwing the ball to our DBs on every play, we're probably not going to win this game. At least this weekend, you're like, okay, there's a pathway where you can see this is how you can win the game, and it's not something that's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked in the opening riff of the show, there's a formula here to win this game. It's not unbelievable. It's like a real doable formula to take a W against LSU. All right, and we appreciate the text like always, 803-404-6100. All right, our Twitter X, College Game Day's guest picker has yet to be named. If we're up to you, who would you choose to be the celebrity guest picker? Like I said, we've had a lot of, we have Stephen Garcia and Steve Spurrier and our wrestler buddy, and also Asia Wilson. I mean, her name's come up here. I love this one, though. If it's going to be a WWE guy, it should be Ric Flair, because Flair's in his Gamecock jersey.
Ric Flair's a fan of every single team. Have you noticed that?
Oh, absolutely.
I've seen him do hype videos for like 12 different teams in college football.
Funny. A lot of Dawn Staley. Got some Lamont Paris in here. Obviously, Stephen Garcia. Got ball coach, little Steve Spurrier. And like I said, Trick Williams' name has come up a bunch.
As long as they just don't do the thing that I hate, the Gameday will do sometimes, is they'll just be like, here's a random celebrity with no ties to either school, probably doesn't really even watch college football that much, but like, hey, they're a big name, let's have them on the show. Like,
right.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. No. We've seen that, and it makes you scratch your head.
Sure, because what makes it fun, and yes, they won't be in front of a crowd picking like normal because it's going to be a noon kick, but the fun thing is like a person up there that is either engaging with the crowd or just knows what the heck they're talking about and has some kind of tie to the city or the school.
Because you make it special to that school. Because part of it, you're coming to the town, you're for 2 hours, you're weaving yourself, 3 hours rather, you're weaving, we do 2 hours. For 3 hours, you're weaving yourself in the fabric of this university and the fan base and the community.
Yes.
So grab someone that's got a connection to the university, the fan base, the community. It's not that hard. I'm with you. Bring in some random musician or singer or actor or whatever who is the hot flavor of the week now.
The worst one to me, and this was during COVID, so they weren't doing like full crowds and stuff, and the guest picker was on like Zoom. I can never pronounce the last name correctly. The comedian, Sebastian.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, he joins the show for the guest picker segment, and like the first thing out of his mouth is, I don't really watch college football.
Yeah.
Why are you on the show?
You shouldn't be.
You shouldn't be.
No. They had someone else, a musician. It was in a band, guy from a band. And again, same thing. I really don't watch college football, but let's have some fun. It's okay. Why are you there? Again, two, if you're well known at that university and you're from there, let's take Hootie.
Sure.
Let's say Hootie doesn't watch it. He could care less. But he is Hootie, and he's big. He's big with this fan base. Just go pick. You don't have to say you don't know anything.
You don't have to give
us
detailed analysis, but
because now but if you don't watch or you don't pay attention to it, then you better be funny as hell or entertaining as all get out, right?
Exactly.
Bring something that's going to make it at least humorous to me, because obviously you can't pick. So do something ridiculous, make it over the top, make us all laugh, but just don't say I don't even college football. You guys play this on Saturdays?
Wait,
I never knew this.
Y'all do this every week?
Wow, this is kind of cool. I'm with you.
Yeah, don't do that.
We appreciate you if you're jumping in our little Twitter X poll. Thank you very much. Over 6,000 people so far have viewed it, and a ton of people have given their thoughts, and thank you very much. What's trending at 2 coming up next here on the Halftime Show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head as we go till 3 right here on the Game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. Halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head. What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry here on the game in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach. All right, what's trending at 2? Obviously, South Carolina LSU is trending huge here at 2.
That this weekend?
In our neck of the woods. I've heard.
Yeah.
I think it's a football game.
Sounds fun.
Maybe we should check it out.
Well, I know you won't be here.
Exactly. Let's see. 24, 27, roughly 27 and a half hours from now, I'll be watching Bruce take the stage. I've been doing this. I won't lie to you. I right now have signed up for an app that gives me Bruce Springsteen injury updates.
Really? What kind of injuries is he sustaining?
Nothing threatening enough to keep him off the stage. Remember last year he had the ulcer, so the gig got canceled.
How old is he now?
74.
Really? I thought he was older than that. My parents went to see Bob Dylan a couple months ago, and he's in his 80s now, and they're
90s, right?
Yeah, he had to play the piano the entire time because it was holding him up on the stage. He was essentially leaning on it the entire show. Like that was, it was serving a purpose more than just music.
Well, that's the thing. It's like Springsteen isn't jumping around like he used to, but he's up there and he's standing there and they got nothing holding him up, and he doesn't have a walker or anything. He's just up there doing his thing. Again, he's not like he used to be, but so he's all right. Like what was it? I was talking to my kid's uncle last night. And he said somebody saw Rob Halford from Judas Priest. And he's like 72 or whatever.
Right.
And they said he just saw a clip of Halford like limping on the stage, dragging himself around, looking like he needs to like lay down. Right? It looks like he needs a nap.
He's trying to still be that guy from 30 years ago.
And you can't be.
Can't be.
And so, I mean, I give Bruce credit. He's standing there, he's playing the guitar. From what I understand, he moves around. I've heard a couple of the cuts from this year.
Okay.
He's sounding pretty good.
Good.
But again, last year, the ulcer screwed up my concert.
Yeah, don't expect a cartwheel or anything like that.
No, I'm watching for health updates. And I'm going to say this. If you call yourself the boss, get your bleep and bleep and bleep on stage.
He's questionable going into
There will be
tomorrow.
no, there will not be.
No questionable.
No, you will not be on the injury report.
Go find him yourself and drag him on stage.
He will sing in the parking lot in front of my car.
You'll turn your headlights on.
Exactly. Hey, by the way, speaking of Game Day, ESPN Game Day, which will be here on Saturday, 9 a.m. at Gamecock Village, if you go and you have a sign, a poster, a shirt, anything with 107.5 The Game, and you send us a picture, you got to be at Game Day.
Yes.
You got to be at ESPN's Game Day at the set. If you get a picture of yourself in the crowd at Game Day, first 5 folks to get it to our social media, 1075thegame.com, Twitter X. We got our Instagram account, 1075thegame. Get it to us. First 5 folks will get tickets for the Ole Miss game.
And as much as you've advocated for it, you don't have to violate the personal space of Reese Davis or Nick Saban.
No, you don't. But if it could be fun. We're not telling you to.
No, I wouldn't advise it.
No, because we're not going to get the lawsuit when Stanford Steve like suplexes you on stage.
Remember, there's a lot of former football players on that stage. They can hurt you.
And I'm sure the security team isn't like that 80-year-old guy at the mall. It's not Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Right.
It's like a real security team, I'm guessing. So I'm kidding. I'm having some fun with it. But, yeah, we're not recommending you go run and do that.
I would not.
No.
There's a couple layers of security that probably keep you from getting there anyway.
Exactly. Like the guy from Jerry Springer. Remember that security guy?
Right.
That guy's there now. Him. A couple ex-Secret Service dudes. Just shoot you on sight. They don't care. All right. Dow Loggins hanging out with the media yesterday. Dow was talking about just a ton of stuff. We're going to zero in on a couple different things. One, the evolution of this offense. Look, I'll give Dow credit. It seemed like they schemed some guys open on Saturday against Kentucky. They were flooding zones. They were doing some things with the route combinations that made Kentucky DBs make bad decisions. And there was blown coverages, and there was receivers running open. And I'm going to give a decent amount of credit to what was schemed up by South Carolina to force the Kentucky back into the defense to kind of like blow coverages and look at each other like, I thought you had him. I thought you had him. So here's Dow Loggins talking about the evolution of the Gamecock offense.
You're always looking for more at every position, but what I've been excited about is their style of play, how hard they played. Like they're physical too. That the touchdown that Rocket had, you watch Torselli on that pull, like he splatters that defensive end. It's a really good player. He splattered too, and the excitement they play together. We're not always perfect, and it's not always the cleanest stuff, but we play hard, and you can see that they're playing for each other. And I think that's really important in football. And you don't get absolute buy-in if the coach doesn't believe, if the group doesn't believe in their position coach. So I think that starts with Coach Teasley and the mindset that he's created with, was it 2 new starters and a true freshman that are playing at a pretty well enough to be 2-0 and to get an SEC win on the road versus the number 2 defense in the SEC last year. And it comes down to how they're playing, it's the style of play. There's a lot of things we need to clean up as an offensive unit, but what you can't fix is attitude and effort, and that's where they're different than last year, and that's where we're really pleased. You said, what are you pleased about the offense line? Their style of play.
Isn't it interesting that he said what's different from last year's attitude and effort? It's a very interesting comment about, because that offensive line, because of the injuries last year, it was a mess. And now you have a different attitude and you have more of an effort. Again, last year was last year, but I don't know. There's 2 things you can control: your attitude and your effort. And that's very telling of some of the problems last year with your offensive line besides the injuries. This year, look, we can look at grades all day and things of that nature and look at yards, look at sacks, pressures, hits, look at what South Carolina is doing from the performance aspect of being on the field on offense. But just watching it, and even though it might not be a ton better, just watching the offensive line this year, it just looks better. Does that make any sense? I know they're still a work in progress and they've got to improve, but it just looks better than it did last year.
It does, and like you said, there's still a ways to go. You felt like going into the season, the 5 you were putting out there were a good group. Again, you want to see them play well together, but there's time to improve. Now, again, you're going up against not the best defensive front in the world with LSU compared to what you're going to face down the road, but a tough one nonetheless that is going to test you, or hopefully you see those progressions and steps forward. But yeah, I feel like you're not as far behind the 8 ball as you started last year. If that's probably the best compliment I could give to this offensive line so far.
He gave up 9 sacks.
Yeah, because our first impression of it was like, oh, God, this is terrible. And it really didn't get much better as the year went along.
A lot of times first impressions aren't right. Guess what?
Yeah.
They were right.
And let's be honest, Rocket Sanders is really good at breaking contact after getting handoffs.
And making guys miss.
So that's probably making it look a little bit better, too. So, again, if you had Mario Anderson back there or De'Carrion Joyner again, maybe we'd be having a different opinion. But the smoke and mirrors, I guess, element of Rocket Sanders helps out the opinion a little bit too.
And again, it's got to get better. They're still under 2 yards before contact. That's got to get better. The tackles, and we know Josiah Thompson's a freshman. He's going to have growing pains. Case and Henry, that's been an issue at right tackle. The interior of the offensive line played better, especially in pass protection versus Kentucky. And you're dealing with Deion Walker in a lot of ways. So it still must improve, but it feels like they're ahead of the game from where they were last year. All right, Dow Loggins also talking about the game plan around Lenora Sellers running the football. We saw Lenora Sellers run it a lot less against Kentucky, and when Sellers broke out of the pocket or was pressured, instead of just taking off and running, Lenoris kept his head up, looked downfield to make plays in the passing game, and that's when he hit Mazio Bennett on the big 3rd and 14. The heat came from the right interior coming through that gap between guard and tackle, and Lenoris escaped to his left and then made a nice throw to Mazio Bennett for a first down on a 3rd and 14. So here's Dow Loggins talking about the game plan changing around Sellers running the football.
No, there was stuff in there. Some of those carries went to Robbie. So there's always going to be elements with his talent, like featuring his talent of having the ability to run him when needed. It was also a completely different scheme that allowed more access into some throws than quick game throws than ODU offered that way. So I think that there were some things just structurally in game plan changed naturally by the structure of the defense.
So again, it's a different team and a different defense. So that makes sense. And two, with Kentucky and how good they are against the run and how their defensive front two levels play, there probably wasn't as much opportunity for Sellers to make plays in the run game. And two, again, remember Sellers left the game. Robbie Ashford came in. Robbie Ashford was relatively successful taking off with the football against Kentucky because that's his game.
Right.
I just like the fact that Linares didn't try to force the runs. He, when there was pressure and he broke out, he was looking downfield to see, can I make a play in the passing game? Can I use my legs to give me big plays in the passing game? So I liked that. That's what we saw in the spring game with him. When he was pressured, he moved, he kept his head up, he threw the ball down the field.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And I go back to our conversation with Wilson in the last hour, what role does Harold Perkins play this weekend? Is he at linebacker? Do they move him over to that star spot? Did they move him around a lot? Is he going to be the spy accounting for Lenore Sellers? Because that could be a big deterrent from maybe wanting to run Lenore Sellers more if that's the guy you're having to beat, because he's got good speed. He can be sideline to sideline, obviously very, very physical, very athletic. I know his best spot is obviously the edge position, but he could be a guy that can move around and use to try and negate what Sellers can do.
We've talked about that. If you don't want to play Harold Perkins exclusively on the edge, okay. But put him in a position where, and I always use the term chess piece, have him on the edge on a down. Next down, move him somewhere else. Another down, move him somewhere else. Put him where, he can affect the football game. He has not been affecting the football game at all from just playing a conventional linebacker spot. It just doesn't work. And hopefully, I was kind of bummed that Wilson said they might change him up, because I was hoping they keep him at linebacker for another week where it doesn't affect the game.
That'd be beneficial for Carolina. It's like, hey, why don't you do that next week?
Why don't you just keep him where he's at? And then next week try to, use him to his full effectiveness. All right, real quick, success rate on first down. We talked about this on before the season started. Success rates on offense is kind of an analytic stat, and basically it's kind of a duh stat. The more efficient and effective you are on first down, the more chance you are to get a first down moving forward. If you gain 5 yards on first down, that's success. If you get to a 2nd and 3, that's success as well on second down, or get to 3rd and short, that's success. And so there's different success levels and different success rates. We're just kind of focusing on first down to make it easy, because first down is so important. South Carolina had 20 first down opportunities on Saturday versus Kentucky made 5 yards or more on 5 occasions. That's only 25%. And it's interesting, 3 of those came on the first touchdown drive. 3 of those 5. Because there were some nice plays on that drive. Like, first of all, the 1st and 10 at the South Carolina 39, Sellers, he hit Jared Brown with that 21-yard pop. Then on 1st and 10, Sellers ran for 5. That's success. And then on a 1st and 10 from the Kentucky 34, that's when Sellers, rolled out. Bennett was wide open on the busted coverage, and Sellers hit Bennett for the touchdown. That was first down as well. So 3 of the 5 successful pops were on that one drive. But again, you want to get better than 25%. That's kind of where they're at after the first 2 games. You'd like to get that success rate up. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We'll take a little peek at the SEC, what's going on in the best conference in college football, and Deshaun Watson talking to the media about his latest off-the-field problem. That's coming up. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions, right here on the Halftime Show on The Game. Halftime show, What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Take a quick look at the SEC. Couple notes. Number one, Paul Feinbaum was on with Greg McElroy on Greg McElroy's podcast. What's it? Always College Football?
Everything.
Everything
Always college football.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And they were talking about the situation at Auburn. Auburn got beat by that ACC powerhouse Cal on the Plains, by the way.
And looked awful doing it. Peyton
Thorne threw so many interceptions. Gamblers were asking for money. It was just bad.
Yeah,
bad.
Preston's petitioning for him to change his last name because he doesn't want any kind of association with it.
That side of the family, not allowed to the barbecue, the cookout. Freeze is 7-8 at Auburn. Did go to a bowl game. Got waxed in a bowl game by Maryland, of all people. Lost that game to New Mexico. It's been a little weird so far. Now, look, it's not like Brian Harsin left the cupboard full. Harsin did not recruit for anything at Auburn.
No,
to
he
be
recruited
fair.
like he was still at Boise.
Right. We're going to get a bunch of 3-stars and coach them up. Great idea, Boise.
Good
not
luck.
a great idea in the SEC.
Have fun with that.
It's not recruiting in the SEC, Bob. It's recruiting for a reason. So Hugh Freeze, to be fair, didn't have a full cupboard. Now, I know in the transfer portal, we have less patience. It feels like, one of the biggest problems is Hugh Freeze hooking his wagon to Peyton Thorne seemed like not very smart move.
And again, I had confidence that there was going to be an improvement in the offseason because we've seen Hugh Freeze do that before. There's clearly not been an improvement.
No, and Hugh Freeze was banking on Hugh Freeze. Remember, they ran off the offensive coordinator, Phil Montgomery, and it was all Montgomery's fault, right? That's all we heard. Oh, it's going to be different now.
Hey, the coordinators are always a great scapegoat, right?
Absolutely. Now, could it get better as the year goes along? Sure. But right now, it does not look like it's getting any better. Could argue it's getting worse. So Paul Feinbaum was talking with Greg McElroy specifically about what's going on down on the Plains.
The reaction right now to what's going on at Auburn is really aggressive. How real are the concerns about the uneven nature of Auburn's play in the last 2 years?
They should be real. For all the good things you can say about this program off the field, the on-the-field performance lately has been terrible. And you go back to the 4th and 31 and now this. I didn't see any way they could lose.
It is pretty shocking, though, to see, and kind of going back, and something that I had just kind of forgotten, his teams will play up to the best teams. But for whatever reason, there's always a game or two on the schedule that are just flat out unexplainable.
Auburn fans are very proud. And they take pride in what that football team puts on the field, even in defeat. They don't take pride in what we saw Saturday. His demeanor isn't great either. I mean, I've been around Hugh Freeze once or twice down there. He doesn't really look like he wants to be there. I know that sounds like a bold statement, but I mean, there's something going on with him. At least act like you want the job. I mean, show some emotion. That's my impression of being around Hugh Freeze.
Isn't it funny when you don't win? Look at that body language. Do you want the job? No, not really. I only fought like hell to get back to the SEC. I don't want the job. So that's where, look, I like Paul Feinbaum. I do. Had a chance to talk with him X amount of times. Nice man. But come on. I mean, sometimes he says things just to say things, so we'll talk about the things he says. To think Hugh Freeze doesn't want this job barely a year into it, when all he wanted to do was get back to a Power 5 league, hopefully the SEC, to get himself to where he was before he had the burner phone incident, and to act like now he doesn't want the job. Come on, stop.
I think it's akin to, in a way, what we see at, Clemson with Dabo, where you have to adapt to the changes of college football and embrace them, or else you're going to get left behind. Now, again, he's not anti-portal. He's not anti-NAL. They have that out there on the Plains, and it's fine. But again, you had the opportunity to go out and find a better quarterback this offseason in the portal. You chose not to do it because you thought, I can fix this guy that looked pretty broken last year. It has not worked, and now guess what? You still got 10 more games. Georgia, Alabama, got a lot of tough ones coming up that probably aren't going to go too well because this guy clearly can't throw the football.
Yeah, and so I've always liked this too. Like when your demeanor is even keeled, right? When you win, man, he's so even keeled.
Stoic.
doesn't get too high on wins, not too low on losses. He's a rock. He's a rock, I tell you.
Can't shake him.
No, just straight ahead. Love that. Love the even keeled. When you're losing, what's wrong with you? Don't you care?
Show some emotion.
Come
bud.
on, man, break something.
Give me a T or something.
Come on. I always love that. And again, just look, I do. I love Feinbaum, but come on, man. He doesn't want the job. Just come on, stop.
Feinbaum knows how to stir the pot.
Sure he does. I give
doesn't
Paul
get people
credit.
talking.
He got us talking about it. Good work, Paul Feinbaum. From Saturday Down South, they put together a list. The top 10 players, ranking the top 10 players in the SEC entering week 3. And we'll skip a bit down to 5, and we'll work from there. Number 6, by the way, is Ryan Williams, the 13-year-old wide receiver from Alabama, who's been really good.
Freak.
Number 5, Quinn Ewers, quarterback, Texas. No shocker there. Number 4, Dylan Sampson, running back, Tennessee. Sampson was really good last week against NC State, but so was everybody in a Tennessee uniform. Number 3, Diego Pava, quarterback, Vanderbilt.
Powerhouse Commodores.
Yes. College football playoff bound. I mean, honestly, Diego, guy's got an edge to him. He had it in his previous stop in New Mexico. And remember, he's the guy that did the going to the bathroom thing on the logo.
Yes.
So Diego's got a bit of an edge to him, a little crazy to him. And he's brought that to Vanderbilt in the first 2 games. Pavia's been good, completing 76% of his throws. And also he ran for over 100 yards against Virginia Tech, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Number 2, Carson Beck, not a shocker. Not a shocker at all. Carson Beck completing 71% of his throws, by the way. And number 1, this shouldn't be a shocker. Dylan Stewart, South Carolina.
I mean, it's hard to say no.
I mean, when you see it, you go, your first thought is, really? I mean, he's been really good, but, I mean, he's a freshman edge rusher. It's been 2 games. But right now, and again, we just use some of this stuff to give you an example. Pro Football Focus has him grading out at 97.4. That's historic. That's historic grades in his first 2 weeks of playing college football. I mean, and plus you get the highlight of him going through 3 guys in a pass rush to hit Vandergriff. We're watching every play, so we've been seeing all of these plays he has been making or the havoc and pressure he's causing.
I've said it already this week, and Ryan Williams certainly having a great season at Alabama so far. I mean, find me a freshman doing better than Dylan Stewart right now. There's a lot of great freshmen out there. They're making impacts, but I don't think anybody has wrecked games more than Stewart has the first 2 weeks. Again, Old Dominion in Kentucky. You get a step up in competition this week, but if he goes out there and has any sort of effect on Garrett Nussmeier, gets a sack, has a couple pressures, the hype train for him is going to go through the roof.
Against these 2 offensive tackles, that will be impressive. So Dylan Stewart, according to Saturday Down South, number 1 player in the SEC going to week 3. Real quick about the Deshaun Watson. Watson spoke to the media yesterday. Of course, he denies everything. We're getting all the court stuff is happening. But the one thing I thought was interesting, I heard this yesterday. If the Cleveland Browns get proof that, because this happened back in 2020, if there was anything legally going on with this trial before Deshaun Watson became a Cleveland Brown and Watson's people did not disclose it, that could be grounds to get out of this contract.
Ooh, that is interesting.
So if you're the Browns, you're hoping. Is that wrong to say? That you're hoping
no.
that this was not disclosed to you?
Let me tell you this. They're going to explore every avenue that they can.
Yes. So that's the interesting part of this. Obviously, again, like I say, the bigger picture is the alleged crime. And if you committed that alleged crime, Deshaun Watson deserves the punishment you should get by law. So we know that's more important than football, but we talk sports here. And from the sports angle, if there's something that the Browns can find that can get them out of this contract, my guess is they will get out of this contract. Greatest day in the history of the world is September 12th. We'll talk about that next here on the Halftime Show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the Game. Men's Clinic of South Carolina, Dr. Dan and the staff, waiting to hear from you at 803-875-MENS. And look, just you hear this message that we talk about all the time here on the show and on the station, and you're like, I'm fine. I'm okay. I can't do that. I can't bring myself to go. I can't make the phone call. I'm a guy. I can't admit this stuff. There's really nothing to admit. You're getting older. Sometimes you just don't, the testosterone levels in your body aren't the same as when you were younger. And if you're not sleeping well, you have a lack of life drive, sex drive, professional drive, personal drive. Yeah, your workout at the gym isn't that good anymore. Your recovery from workout stinks. You're not sleeping. You can't remember stuff. You might just need a boost in testosterone. You go free consultation with the Men's Clinic, 803-875-MENS. If you are suffering from low testosterone, they'll put you on a program to get you back to being you again. Men's Clinic of South Carolina, just make the call. Get yourself back to normal. Greatest day in the history of the world is September 12th. But before we get to that, what makes it the greatest day, a bonus, is we now know who the guest picker is for South Carolina LSU.
That's
Please
correct.
tell me it's not like Kenny Chesney, like 2014.
It is not Kenny Chesney. If you guessed Don Staley, you were correct.
Don Staley.
Going to be on the desk with the crew. Again, it won't be outside because it's a noon kick, so they'll move the show inside for the last hour. But yes, she'll be making her picks right before the game kicks off.
Makes sense. Don Staley. By the way, our buddy Justin Hall sent me a text. We were talking about just bringing that random guy in who's a star.
Right.
He goes, they did that with Kenny Chesney in 2014 last time Game Day was here. Because Kenny Chesney has such a connection to the University of South Carolina
Makes
or
total
Columbia.
sense. I think they should round up all of Don Staley's trophies and rings and all of Nick Saban's trophies and rings and see if they'll cover the entire desk.
That would be good.
Because they might.
That would be ridiculous. Very nice. So Dawn Staley, good for Dawn. That'll be very cool. All right, greatest day in the history of the world, September 12th. 1895, because we always go to the oldest one. This one, we had something like this yesterday. Defender wins 3 straight matches from the British Challenger to defend the America's Cup. Again, yachting. It's yachting season, Tyler. Yachting season.
Did we look up who won the last America's Cup?
Yeah, it was New Zealand.
That's right.
So
yeah. We only care if we're winning.
Yeah, we don't care if we're not winning. It just doesn't matter.
Now, if America wins 2024,
we're in.
We're in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Also on this day, 1979, Carl Yastrzemski gets his 3,000th hit off of a Yankee pitcher, Jim Beattie. Obviously, Carl Yastrzemski, phenomenal player. And he was, for a long time, up until a few years ago when Miguel Cabrera did it, the last player to pop a Triple Crown. So I believe the last National Leaguer to do it, was it Ducky Medwick in 1937? I think someone in 1937 was the last time the National League had a Triple Crown winner. But Carl Yastrzemski, 1979, 3,000th hit of his career. A couple of tennis players we never talk about anymore, women. Tracy Austin, Lindsay Davenport won majors, won the U.S. Open on this day in history in different years. Both won multiple majors. And again, like a Jennifer Capriati, it's like they never existed. But they were very good in their time. And they both won the U.S. Open on this day. This one's interesting.
Okay.
1995, the Harlem Globetrotters, going into a game on this day in 1995, the Globetrotters had won 8,829 consecutive games over a 24-year span.
It's got to be some kind of record.
Probably. Well, yeah, I would say. Beat the UConn women, barely. Well, guess what? It was snapped on this day. The Globetrotters lost 91-85 to a team led by the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now, how old is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1995?
Oh, God. I don't even want to guess.
Jabbar scored 34 points in a competitive, unscripted, real game in Vienna, Austria. So the Globetrotters' over 8,800-game win streak was snapped by, 50-year-old Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
You're telling me the entertainment basketball team lost to an actual basketball team? I, for one, am shocked.
It is shocking. But yeah, how old was Kareem in 1995? That's an interesting question.
I'm trying to see what the record for the Globetrotters and the Generals are.
The Generals only won one time, right?
I think 5 times.
Have they? I thought they only won once. Yeah, check that. All right, a couple more. On this day in 2011, Novak Djokovic wins his first U.S. Open, beating Rafael Nadal. Tom Brady on this day in 2011 throws for a team record 517 yards, 4 touchdowns, including a 99-yarder to Wes Welker. New England beat Miami 38-24. Andre Agassi also won his second U.S. Open on this day in 1999. Got anything there on a...
I'm still trying to find it. The record of fictional basketball, well, not fictional, but, entertainment basketball teams are hard to find.
I can't believe you're having trouble finding the record of a fictional. You're really being harsh on the Globetrotters.
Well, you got to think about it. How many coaches would the Generals have had to fire by losing that many games?
It's pretty bad. Pretty bad. Okay, Kareem was only 48 when he scored 34 on the Globetrotters. Wasn't quite 50. So 48-year-old Kareem Abdul-Jabbar dropped over 30 on the Globetrotters.
So I can't find an official record. Let's just say they've lost a lot.
And here, though, you know what, though? The Globetrotters are fun. You ever see them in person?
I've known in person. I've seen them on TV.
I never saw them in person.
I've also seen them join Scooby-Doo in the game back in the day.
Tell you what, that was fun. Scooby-Doo in the gang. That was one of my favorite Scooby-Doos.
Then they had like Don Knotts the next episode. It was great.
Yeah, Globetrotters are better. But, well, we had the Globetrotters in studio in Baltimore. They came in, they had a couple of them come hang with us. They're very cool guys.
They spin a basketball on top of your head?
Yes, they did.
They pants your co-host?
They de-pantsed them and they threw the confetti on us. They did the whole thing. They did the whole show. Everyone still falls for the confetti.
Oh, every time.
Every time.
That's the thing. Like, if there's only so many tricks you can do on a basketball court.
Right.
So if you like followed the Globetrotters around, you're probably going to see the same things every single time. Much like the Savannah Bananas, like there's a little more nuance you can do with a baseball game, but like it's just so darn entertaining.
It really is. And look, the Globetrotters have been doing the same thing forever. They're going to have a dude dribble in circles. They're going to do the thing with the string on the ball at the free throw line. They're going to throw the confetti, and you're still going to sit there and laugh.
I just had an idea. Globetrotters and the Bananas playing each other's sports against each other. One baseball game, one basketball game.
That would be cool. Yeah, I want to go see
up.
Have you seen Savannah Bananas yet?
I have not. Those tickets, I mean, it's like tickets to Lambeau. You got to be on someone's will to get one of those.
I give that guy props.
Started from nothing, essentially.
He found an opening, and my man is. I've read a deep dive on it. I've seen some deep dives on TV about it. He's a marketing genius.
Amazing. I mean, they are the Globetrotters of baseball.
Oh, absolutely. When you're bringing out 90-year-old Bill Lee to pitch, and you got a guy on stilts, and the players sing and
hitting ball, with bats on fire.
I know it's just ridiculous how impressive it is. All right, it's the greatest day in the history of the world, September 12th. Okay, here's the deal. Tonight, Carolina calls. Shane Beamer at 6. We have Thursday Night Football then at 7:30. I believe we got the Bills, and we've got the, help me, I'm blanking, Dolphins. Both are 1-0. And you can hear that tonight right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia, and also 100.5 The Game in Florence. We got that coming up. And then Friday, Columbia Craft, our South Carolina tailgate show at Columbia Craft on Green Street in the Vista with Jay and Elijah, 3 to 6. Go hang out. Have a good time. Try one of those 16 different craft beers, chill, and listen to Jay and Elijah just yap about South Carolina and LSU. Have a good time. So that is coming up tomorrow. Speaking of Jay Phillips, we'll yip with him next. We do the handoff, sponsored by Little Pigs, Alpine Road, also our Firehouse sub. Text the hour at 803-404-6100. It is the halftime show. We go till 3 on The Game. All right, we'll get our Firehouse sub text the hour at 803-404-6100. Our handoff sponsored by Little Pigs Alpine Road with Jay Phillips, who's very scared with the lighting in the room.
Not really scared. It's just
Jay's uncomfortable when there's any semblance of shade
we
or
just have
darkness.
these big, giant windows that look out on, over a nice view at the State House.
For those that don't know, when Jay comes in, he turns on every light. He lifts up he wants like he's anti-vampire because he wants every bit of possible light illuminating the studio.
What Jay doesn't understand is the windows aren't sponsored. The video stream is sponsored.
That is very true.
We make money off the video stream. We have people watching the video stream.
Yeah.
But we know now.
Why don't you just paint these windows black, man? Then I can't do anything about it. Because I'm going to lift these up when it's my turn.
See, and we also do this so people can actually see Tyler.
Yes.
So when you do that, nobody will be able to see Elijah.
No, they can see.
No, all they'll see is, what is it, Tyler's weird reflections?
It's a lot of glare. You can kind of make out movement
Then let's
in the
get
background.
another camera in there that makes that easier.
You know people at Integrated Media?
I'll see what I can do.
Why don't you work your magic?
I think Jay,
just take that camera right there and put it in there.
I think Jay should have to
Pick
do
it up
that
and move it
himself.
I think Jay should be the one in charge of taking the third camera and moving it in there, so we don't have to worry about all this lighting.
I'll do it.
You can do it.
Yeah, I mean, how hard can it be?
Just pick it up and move it, right?
Said the guy before the hardest thing he's ever done.
What do you got for the fail Firehouse sub text of the hour, pal?
I think a very legitimate question being asked here on the text line in reference to our ticket giveaway for the Ole Miss game, where, again, if you show up with a game T-shirt, game poster at College Game Day,
sign,
you have a chance to win tickets. He says, streakers not encouraged for Ole Miss tickets, question mark?
Streakers?
I would say no.
Well, I would say yes.
You know what?
Why not?
Yeah, let's do it.
But see, can we be held liable for that if they get arrested for public indecency?
I don't think we can get. Well,
we didn't tell them to.
We just said, hey, go for it if you want to, right? I mean,
but that is our name on their whatever part of the body.
What you do to your own body is on you.
Yeah,
man.
and I'll tell you this though.
This ain't Russia.
If you're going to go full body paint with 107.5 the game,
I'll give you a pair of tickets anyway.
Just let it. Go naturally. Do you remember when we were kids? We had streakers everywhere.
I remember it being a thing. I don't know that I think in the 70s that was more of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, we were little kids, but I remember that,
Well, they had, was it? Ray Stevens had
called it The Streak, and that song was a number one. It was top 5 hit or something.
Oh, God, I hope it wasn't number one.
I think it was. It was up there. Well, I remember, you'd always hear stories of some dude in the neighborhood, wherever, some neighborhood near you, just streaking down the road, just running butt naked.
Of course, the most famous streaker, Will Ferrell in Old School.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Solid.
I love when the car pulls up next to him. That's a good movie we never talk about. I thought Old School was very underrated.
It's
good.
It is.
I think it's good.
It's good.
It's not in my top 10, but it's a good movie.
It's never a bad watch. If you are flipping channels and it's 10 minutes in, you'll put it on, and you're not going to be dissatisfied with it.
Right. I agree with you. Now, there are Will Ferrell movies I like better, but I do like Old School.
That's good.
It's nice, solid movie.
It's good.
I've never ever gotten the, and that's back when I would scratch my head on Owen Wilson and how this is happening and this phenomenon of Owen Wilson. I never quite got it in my life.
I don't know.
He never really was funny and never was a great actor and just kind of.
One of my kids thinks he's hilarious.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess to each their own.
I guess. I just never found him as. I thought there's 7,000 guys who could have
probably
when he's paired with Vince Vaughn, I think it's a pretty good dynamic. But when it's him solo, Drillbit Taylor kind of thing, I could take it or leave it.
Is
but again, Vince Vaughn's there.
Oh, Vince Vaughn's great. I love Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn is, I'm surprised he's not doing more, but.
Yeah, it's kind of. I don't know if he decided. He said, "You know what? I made a lot of money. I made a lot of movies. I'm just going to chill now for a while."
He's
doing something now that's streaming on one of these.
Oh yeah,
streaming deals. Now I can't remember which one, but
the only bad thing again, why he agreed to be in that Psycho remake and why they needed to remake Psycho is still beyond me.
Well, we're seeing this now. Now that we've totally gone off a path. There are things being remade now that I don't understand why we're remaking things.
It's laziness because they can't come up with their own ideas in Hollywood anymore.
You know what I think it is? They're scared of any original idea because they're scared of the mob might hate them or something. I don't know.
When I was a freshman in high school, they remade Footloose in my hometown. Oh. And I was like, Footloose isn't that old. Why are they remaking it?
And look, no offense to Footloose. The soundtrack, thumbs up.
Yeah.
The movie, dumb. You can't dance in the town. Let's stop now. That's just
John Lithgow was a good bad guy. No, I don't disagree. But like when they remade Bad News Bears.
Don't do that.
Zero
Don't
reason to do that.
No.
Again,
No offense to Billy Bob
Psycho,
Thornton.
like Psycho. You did not. You did not, and I won't talk about it on air. But there's only one thing that was really, other than color. Mm-hmm. There's only one thing that was different, and I'll we're not gonna talk about it.
There's certain things
like Steve Martin, who I revere. When they remade the Pink Panther and with him as Clouseau, I'm like, you don't need to.
I'm with you. I'm with you, sir.
And there's probably some other ones I'm not thinking.
I think Tyler hit it on the head. It's just flat out laziness. Come on.
It's like when
there's plenty of good ideas out there.
It's also like when they make a sequel. Like Dumb and Dumber 2 came out 20 years after the original. It's a cash grab.
That's all that is.
I know this movie's going to suck, but I get to see.
Well, I thought Dumb and Dumber was not very good.
Jim Carrey as Lloyd Christmas again. Sure, I'll go pay $10 for it.
Well, that's what it is. Like you want to see, but again, 20 years later, it's just really.
But I'm not a Jim Carrey guy, so.
I am on certain Jim Carrey, not everything. I'm certain. I'll tell you what, the funniest thing, when he was on In Living Color.
Yeah,
he was funny in Living Color.
Was pretty good.
I'll go back to this.
The only one I like really is The Truman Show.
Truman Show's good
because that's a little more.
Yeah, it's a little different. Absolutely.
Like Cable Guy, like I don't that movie just weirds me out.
That's dark, man.
It just
that's dark.
That's more of a cult classic.
Yeah. I'll say this too, like remaking, and I get it, like you said, money, but stuff like The Hangover, the first one's so good. Don't do it. But I know you're going to do it to make more money.
They told the same story 3 times.
Yeah.
I know, and I love the first one.
Well, again, like when they needed to make the next Weekend at Bernie's, I'm like, man, he's already dead.
What are you going to do with him now? Yeah. What do you got next? Quick.
Brad Crawford's coming up, talking more Carolina LSU.
Great. Jay, Elijah, post-game show next. Tyler, good job. Dave, good job. Halftime show, do it again tomorrow.